Melissa Melton here for Truthstream Media, and I just want to talk to parents or anyone who takes care of young children for a moment a little bit about our ADHD epidemic that we have here in the United States. And this is a map right here showing the percent of youth 4 to 17 ever diagnosed with ADHD in the United States. And the green areas here, like in Louisiana and Tennessee and Kentucky and everything, that is more than 10% of youth 4 to 17 diagnosed with ADHD. And as you can see, I mean, those are just the darkest areas, but even 8%. I mean, all of these states, 8%. That's a pretty high number of kids that have ADHD. And kids are now the fastest growing segment for pharmaceuticals in this country. And this is huge because we're a totally over-medicated country. America we take more pharmaceuticals than any other country by far on the planet. And we're not even the biggest country. It's very sad. More than 1 in 4 children now in the U.S. take medications to treat ongoing health conditions, like antipsychotic medications and what have you. And because supposedly we have this huge epidemic of ADHD, all these kids everywhere, just 10% of a whole state of kids have ADHD. That's crazy, right? Well, other countries have figured something out that somehow our agencies here in this country don't get. Not sure why. This was a double-blind study. It was a huge double-blind study that was done in 2007 on food additives and hyperactive behavior in 3-year-olds and 8 and 9-year-old children. It was a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial, and it had 153 3-year-olds and 144 8 and 9-year-olds. And what they concluded was that artificial colors or a sodium benzoate preservative or both in the diet resulted in increased hyperactivity in 3-year-olds and 8 and 9-year-olds. This is huge. This is what actually got the EU to finally pull all of the artificial colors out of everything and ban it. So now they don't have that over there. We, however, still have all of that over here because, I mean, apparently we're just the last country to ever ban anything, ever. We just don't, because our country's run by corporations. Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about, though, is the food dye. Because these food dyes, I think a lot of parents don't know where they come from. And I also think a lot of people don't realize that they're in a lot more than just food. I didn't know where they came from until recently. And when I started reading about artificial food dyes, I was pretty horrified. So, artificial food dyes are a byproduct of the petroleum industry, okay? That's why they're artificial. It's not natural for your food to be rainbow neon colored. That's just not normal. It never was. The fact that they have kids expecting their food to look like a hot mess from the 80s is very sad. And it's marketing, because this stuff is coal tar based. It comes from coal tar. It is a petroleum byproduct. Now, if you give your kids candy, you flip over the package and it says red number 40, blue number 1, you might not be too worried about that. But if our labels in this country were anywhere near honest whatsoever, and you flipped over a package and it said red number 40, derived from coal tar, petroleum byproduct, you'd probably think twice about putting that anywhere near your kid's mouth. You might think even harder if you read a report like this one from the Center for the Science and the Public Interest, where they show all of the studies and all the science behind these dyes being linked to cancer, being linked to ADHD, being linked to allergies. And we have 7 colors. There's 8 on here. Orange B is not really used anymore, but we have 7 colors that are widely used in America in the foods, and especially red 40 by far. If you see something that's bright red, it's probably got red 40 in it. But I mean, these colors are in all kinds of foods. I mean, I saw a package of marshmallows at the grocery store the other day that had blue number 1 in them. It's marshmallows. Last time I checked, marshmallows were white. Why are they putting blue dye in white marshmallows? Okay? So they're putting it in everything. And it says here that 3 of these dyes carry known carcinogens and 4 cause serious allergic reactions. They contribute to cancer in lab animals, brain and testicular tumors, colon cancer, and mutations. There's all kinds of things that have been linked to these food dyes, but they're not just in the food. And I found this out the other day when I was cleaning out the cabinet, and I found a bottle in the back of unopened children's Tylenol that I had purchased. And I decided to go ahead and flip it over and look at the inactive ingredients, because that's the thing. You buy these things for your kid when the kid has a flu or they're sick, they got a sore throat, whatever, and you go to the store, you just want to get something to make your kid feel better, and you look at the active ingredients. Acetaminophen, by the way, is a dangerous ingredient for other reasons. A lot of people end up in the hospital due to liver toxicity with that, but that's a side issue here. What I want to just mention here is the inactive ingredients. People don't tend to look at those, but these ingredients here are a mess. And it's not just children's Tylenol. I mean, it's all of these medications. This is the Walmart generic version, Equate children's acetaminophen. This is Target's brand of that. Here's CVS Pharmacy. The list goes on. They all have these artificial colors. And they have other stuff too. This one's got the sodium benzoate that was mentioned in the Lancet study. And it's also got citric acid. And, you know, we've talked about before how those two ingredients together can form benzene in the bottle when it's heated. That's a carcinogen right there, but that's also a side issue. Right now, I just want to try and focus on these artificial colors. This has D&C Red 33, which isn't even approved for use in food, and FD&C Blue number 1. The Walmart version has Red number 33 and FD&C Red 40. The Target version has D&C 33 and Blue number 1. The CVS version has red number 33 and red number 40. And it's not just in these, it's also in, these are multivitamin, chewable multivitamin, very popular brand. Children 2 to 3 years of age chew a half tablet. Look at the ingredients though. Not only do you have aspartame, which is, again, that's a whole nother issue, but you've got FD&C Red 40 Aluminum Lake, FD&C Yellow 6 Aluminum Lake, and FD&C Blue number 2 Aluminum Lake. So not only do you have artificial colors, but they're the aluminum lake versions because, as we all know, 2-year-olds all need to have aluminum. They all need to ingest as much aluminum as possible. That's just a wonderful idea. But if you've ever seen a kid who's been given something with an artificial color in it and had a reaction, which is becoming much more common these days as all of these allergies are skyrocketing off the charts, these kids flip the hell out. They completely lose it. It's not just hyperactivity. It's like watching a child become possessed by a demon or something. And I mean, it happened to my son. He came back from Christmas and the grandparents had given him a bunch of Christmas candy and he was just freaking out. And it took me a while to figure out what was wrong with him because it was like someone had replaced my son with the Tasmanian devil on crack. This right here is a blog where a mother wrote Madeline plus Red 40 dye equals horror show, and she's talking about how her 3-year-old daughter had an allergic reaction, so they gave her some Benadryl. Here's the children's Benadryl label, and as you can see, it clearly has FD&C number 33 and FD&C Red number 40 in there. She talks about how her kid was freaking out, and they said maybe we should call the exorcist because they didn't know what was wrong with her. She was kicking, screaming, trying to hit her mother, just freaking out. So she decided to go ahead and do some research into what they gave her because the only thing she had eaten really that day was bread. You know how little kids go on these binges where they only eat one thing, but they also had given her this. And so she was looking at the ingredients and came across these food colors and started doing research. And she says here, red number 40 is the number 1 dye used in the world. If it's unnaturally red, that's probably what's in there. And actually, I learned something I didn't know, which kind of is just super creepy. But apparently, without red number 40, Jell-O chocolate instant pudding looks green because there's not really any chocolate in it. How gross is that? But she goes on to talk about how Red 40 has been banned in all these countries. It's banned in the EU, Denmark, Belgium, France, Germany, Switzerland, Australia, the UK. They took it out of there. It's banned. Here, not banned. And this is our friend Anthony Antonello. He does a radio show called Silence is Compliance. And he put together this short documentary on red number 40, says the color of poison. It's a must see. Now listen to what he says here about going through what he went through with his own small child.
She would have, I guess you could say, hyper. She would get extremely hyper, and I would put it off and say, you know, she's a kid, she's hyper, but sometimes it would just be, you know, extremely overwhelming. After that, it was almost like she would crash and just like throw it like a tantrum, almost like coming off a caffeine or sugar high, just throw a crazy tantrum. We found out that there was a correlation between her behavior and if she ate something with this red dye called red 40.
See, so he's talking about how there's a correlation here. And it's interesting because you go down into the comments here, and the first comment says correlation is not causation. Okay, but as David Raymond says here, I think this is a very good point that he makes. When it comes to children, doesn't the recognition of a correlation mean that some action should be taken? To throw out a pithy truism, correlation is not causation, is insulting that someone should look at children as data points in a science experiment. Well, that's how our whole food system is run. We're all data points in a giant science experiment. And when anything goes wrong in that science experiment, our agencies like the FDA and the USDA are reactionary. They react only after people are getting hurt and damaged by things. And it's interesting because I continued to scroll down and just kind of see what people said throughout the comments. And this lady, Shula Edelkind, she wrote, "Great video. I was invited to present the Feingold Association's view of food dyes to the FDA Advisory Committee during their deliberations. You can see it at fdadyes.com. It's too bad the committee missed by one vote advising a warning label on food with food dyes, but the FDA lawyers prepared complex, multi-part questions requiring yes or no answers, and the committee members complained to no avail. At one point were warned, remember, if you vote yes, it means no." So they were totally put through this weird deliberation where they were given some questionnaire that confused the crap out of everyone, and they put them through some kind of, paperwork maze, and they ended up missing by one vote to warn us when it's put in ours. And again, as I said, they don't put this in the medicines that are given to children over there. They put it in the medicines over here. Why are we continuously given all of this extra crap in everything? It's because it's a byproduct, and they got to put it somewhere. So why not give it to you and your children, since you'll be the most efficient recycler they can find, and they'll save money not having to get rid of their petroleum byproducts some other way. It makes all kinds of sense to me. Anyway, this report is called Food Dyes, A Rainbow of Risks, Center for the Science and the Public Interest. I'm going to put a link to this in the description. I think everyone should go check it out. And just remember, it's not just the food that we're looking at here when we look at what's going into our bodies and our children's bodies. We also have to look at everything else we're taking as well, including over-the-counter medication. And I just wanted to put that out there because I don't think a lot of parents realize, we're so accustomed in this country. It's on all of the TV commercials. Do you have these symptoms? You need to get this drug, right? And we don't look at what those symptoms could mean, what the actual cause is. Everyone's just running for the cure. And apparently that cure is to dope up everyone, including our children, without even looking at what's causing the problem. And what it might be is all the crap that's in our food. And so I just wanted to put that out there. Think about it. I will put links to this report and also links to Anthony's mini documentary. Go check it out, because if you've ever been around a kid who has ingested this stuff and completely flipped out, it's scary as a parent. That's a scary thing to see, and you don't know what to do about it. But one thing we should all do is be more responsible for what we're putting into our own bodies and into our children's bodies. And I don't mean just giving them a bunch of drugs because they're part of the epidemic. The only thing about saying we have this giant epidemic, all that does is make Big Pharma more money. But it really doesn't fix the problem, which could be staring us right in our face from our dinner plate. So, Melissa Melton, Truthstream Media.